Hey everybody, welcome back to Disgruntled. Okay, Jason, first 100 days, man. We are just a day or two past. We're like at day 100.
Right.
And so everybody in the media and all over the place, there's positive feedback and there's of course a ton of negative feedback about President Trump's first 100 days.
Right.
So I thought, well, hey, why don't Jason and I shoot the shit about Trump's first 100 days? And I'm going to preface this conversation with I haven't done any alternative research to get concrete numbers, right? So I don't know what the statistics are, what the reality is. I know what I know based on just getting my ass up, going to work, coming down here, recording a video, paying my bills, putting gas in my truck, buying groceries and eggs and going home.
Right. So the important metrics,
right?
Rather than the nonsense.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, all right. So let's start it then. First 100 days. What do you think? Do you think he's effed it all up, or do you think that we're in a good direction?
I think it's muddy, but I think we're absolutely going the right way. Like, what's wrong with tariffs?
It doesn't seem like anything should be. It seems like we've been getting our dicks tariffed in the dirt for years.
And again, thank you to the producers of iFunny for having the courage and moral conviction to put out the classiest meme site on the interwebs. So the meme that I saw a couple of days ago that really made me giggle, and I shot it to a bunch of my buddies, was one that said, well, if the U.S. putting tariffs on goods is going to cause a worldwide recession, by claiming that statement alone, you can say that the entire world relies on our giveaways. And that's like the easiest and simplest way that I was able to see tariffs truly for what they are, right? Because we subsidize everybody else at the expense of everybody that lives in this country. And now when they're going to feel a little bit of pain, potentially for buying their goods and services, we're losing your mind.
Right.
And you have to give up on your $500, refrigerator, which of course I know they don't cost $500, but who gives a shit how much it costs when the thing only lasts 3 years anyhow?
Yeah.
So piss on it. I'll spend the $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 and have one that I can have and pass down to my kids and their kids' kids, just like our grandparents did for us.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, speaking of refrigerators, my father-in-law has the refrigerator in I think it's in his garage or his entryway. It's his beer fridge.
Yeah.
And he got it as a wedding gift 65 years ago. And before it was a wedding, it was a repurpose, like a gift,
Yeah.
Because, back in those days, his family didn't have a ton of money. Well, I have a great fridge. I'll pass it on to you guys for your house. He's still awesome. Using it. It doesn't freeze the beer. It's not warm. It works. It's tremendous. It's the best fridge I've ever seen, to be honest.
And see, I want to take these old refrigerators and put them on one of those wattage meters, where you plug it in that tells you how much they're actually consuming. Because there's no way. I mean, for those of you out there that understand these refrigerators, or those that don't, this is a quick course. The old refrigerators ran with refrigerant that ran at low pressure. So all the silapine and all the new refrigerants that they use have to run at such a high pressure that it causes all these issues and problems with the refrigerators. I mean, not to say the fact that you have to hook them up to Wi-Fi for whatever reason hasn't contributed to some of the problems, but at the end of the day, keeping your beer cool, making sure that your insulin is at the right temperature and all that BS is pretty effing important. Well, all of our shit sucks. And so the hope is maybe with tariffs, we can make refrigerators great again. I mean, that's the 100 days that I'm seeing. This is the 100 days that have set the tone for potentially the next 100 years in this country, period.
Well, that's a good perspective. And I think tariffs is one thing. What really gets me about Trump's first 100 days is Doge and awesome. The amount of money that has been found and wasted on the dumbest shit. Like, there is things that they found going through all these agencies that aren't even in the dumbest movie you've ever seen in your, like Sharknado has more shit in it that makes more sense.
You can connect the dots on Sharknado more than you can this bullshit.
Yeah, it's insane to me. And I also just read, by the way, a day ago that all of this information about like Hillary Clinton's big lesbian sex ring that she had with she had like this assistant that's been with her for years and years and years, and she's connected to the like Islamic radical Islamic people.
Okay.
And she's been having these lesbian affairs all these years, and this same lady has been her assistant her whole career.
Really?
Who knows if it's true, but it's super wild. And so maybe it's me just falling down the conspiracy tunnel again.
That's awesome. Well,
and I don't know how we got here from.
I'm just happy we are.
But Doge, right? I mean, all the trillions and billions of dollars that they found.
Right. And then people are pissed about it.
Yeah.
There's some dumb Hunyaks out there. These are 19-year-old kids and I don't think they should have access to the IRS. Says the same pool of dipshits who leak out like every piece of VA. In fact, I just saw something from our good friend Ben about a deal that was being made for who's hosting the VA's data, which is pretty much one of the, if not the largest database of health and medical information on planet fucking Earth, that they made some deal that these people are going to data mine it and they're going to be able to do whatever they want with it. Like, there's no concern about that. But God forbid this 20-year-old genius, gets a chance to go find out that, 340-year-old Sally Jenkins is still collecting a disability check. Like, that's where your problem is. Like, shut up. I'm done. It's over. Nobody listens to techno. Like, Eminem's figured it out, got weird, and he sucks now, but the song still holds up in this context.
Yeah. I think that if you're upset about it, there's only like one of two possibilities. One, you're somehow reaping the benefits of all this madness. Either you're getting cash in your pockets or some bullshit program that is providing you money or benefits so you don't have to work or contribute.
Mm-hmm.
It's either that or you're so far deep into all this bullshit that's put out that it's too far to look back.
Yeah, dude, it's blue no matter who.
Your
These people
loyalty,
just suck.
Yeah, the loyalty to the one side, to the one party, without really thinking about what makes the most sense. To me, there's only those two options.
It's just a straight empty head. If you're not willing to look at the entire space to make a decision, great. I mean, God love you. I mean, go on and do great things. But if you can't see beyond a party line, knowing that they're the same party, all hope is lost.
That's
right?
The other part, right?
I mean, that's the whole. I mean, really, Mitch McConnell, he's the cream of the crop. He's the best that we can put forward. Is somebody that looks like he challenged an owl in a fucking Tootsie Pop ad. We don't need him, or was challenged by the owl, whichever way it was. Because I still
tomato.
But really, like, this is the guy.
Yeah, and then when they're asked, well, hey, how come we don't have maybe new leadership? Well, why would we change it?
Oh, it's been going so good.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, some people say. Well, I don't know. I think it's pretty effing broken, or it has been for a long time.
Right.
And maybe this is and so, like, why? Clearly, it's people that are uncomfortable with change. And of course, they got something to lose.
Right. And I think that the number of people that have something to lose is so minuscule.
I agree. That's going to be my next comment.
It's the other people. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in.
No. But you're right.
It's just be smart. Look, pay attention to what's happening. I mean, we literally right now. Did you see any of these photographs of what's happening on the lawn in the White House?
No.
Dude, for historical folks out there, the old pic that they would put out in front of the castle with somebody's head on it to like ward people off. Trump has in essence done this with like deported folks and their pictures, and then with a charge underneath them, like rapist, murderer, all these people that have been moved out of this country because of his efforts, and he's got posters of them all the way up the driveway. I'm a huge fan. Like, who's gonna sit there and argue, like, you know what, like, I had a pretty good run. I'm fairly uncomfortable in my neighborhood. If I had like 2 or 3 more rapists and maybe pepper and a murderer, this neighborhood would really come
Really
alive.
thrive. Yeah.
I could really try to get home before 5 o'clock, let alone when the lights come on. Like,
Yeah.
what dipshit is out there saying that that's a bad thing?
Yeah, man. Well, clearly somebody that's that far into the weeds.
Because you're gone. Because you're going to talk about the one guy who got deported that apparently wasn't a bad guy, except for in every court case that ever led up to his ultimate departure from this country, showing that he was a gang member, that he had worked over his wife with the old fisticuffs. But again, he was just getting his life turned around.
Yeah.
And how about
they all
this?
are.
I have a question for you, Richie.
Okay.
In these first 100 for 100 days for 100 years, do you think that Donald Trump has isolated this country from other countries that have been advantageous allies to the United States of America? If so, who? And if he has isolated people and they're not allies, who are those people? And then who cares?
I don't think so. Other than his stance between Putin and Zelensky and his stance on China, I don't think he's singled out anybody. He singled out the NATO and all that shit. Okay, fine. But everybody else who decides they want to play ball is going to benefit. And I think where the problem becomes is we are now a society of people that like instant gratification about everything.
Right.
And so when things like this come along, and maybe this is a long-winded thought, but when things like this come along, people don't understand that it's probably going to get a little bit worse before it gets better. Like when we were talking about eggs, for example, a couple months ago, and everyone was so fucked off about eggs. Well, if all the chickens died, which caused a lack of eggs.
I think you mean killed.
Murdered, killed, extinguished, whatever. Well, of course, we have to wait for new chickens to hatch and grow to be able to produce eggs. So on day 2, when eggs were the same price, so they got 10 cents more expensive, everybody went fucking bonkers.
Right.
Well, there's no chickens to lay the eggs because they were all exterminated for whatever reason.
Wiped out.
Some bird flu, apparently. And so people just don't understand. I mean, it's not all just eggs, right? When we find billions of dollars of corruption and fraud, it takes time to get all those ducks in a row, get those people out, get that ship righted. When we've been invaded for the last 4 to 6 years, well, it takes time to find all those people, get them out. We're going to raid nightclubs. We're going to get them out one at a time. We're going to get them out of groups, whatever it is. So like it all takes time. Do I think that President Trump may have been overly ambitious about his first 100 days? Maybe, but I think it's fine. It's fair. Shoot high.
Dude, no,
at least he had a goal.
He didn't even shoot high. He's like shooting at a 90-degree trajectory. Like everybody else, like, we're going to run this at 3 degrees and we're going to over time pick up elevation. And he's like, nope.
87.5 degrees.
Don't know where it's going to come down, but it's going. And I love it. I mean, even if it's shaking up the norm, I don't think there's anybody out there that can say, you know what, stuff was going so well, I really don't want to lose this.
Well, the people that are willing to contribute and work hard.
Yeah, I mean,
they're not complaining.
The parasites are never going to change, right? They just find a new host to suckle off of. So we're never going to spend a lot of time worrying about that faction of the race.
But those are the people that were not but the proverbial we are shoved down our throat all the time, right? These are the people that are going to be without. These are the people that are going to go homeless and hungry and die and freeze and starve and blah, blah, blah. It's that small percentage of people we were just talking about when the masses are like, okay, well, if we take a little bit of time, we'll all have a little more money in our pockets. Our communities will be a little bit more safe. Well, let's ride this thing out. But the folks that got something to lose don't want to see any change. So they're going to fight back. I just the way that I see it. And I don't understand how nobody, even if you disagree, how you can't see that perspective.
Right. Well, and that's that you need to get the windshield installed in your gut so you can see when you're walking around with your head that far up your ass. You know,
Yeah, it's a
they're
good
busted.
analogy.
I mean, if you can't see it, you're never going to see it. So, you know, for anybody out there that's having those conversations with people, all you can do is kill them with honesty. You know, the whole idea here is we're not going back to where we were. And I certainly think under the resident pudding eater, you know, things went a very particular way.
Mm-hmm.
And this was not going to be a slow list of the ship back to center. This was going to be an immediate shift to center. You know, and I'm not saying center politically, but just to get the ship ballasted.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's going to have to start to turn to head in a new direction. And so for 100 days into this thing, I mean, we have so much to talk about. We could just keep talking.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't be wrong. I mean, the military is recruiting at all-time highs.
Absolutely.
National sense of pride in polling. It doesn't matter if you're looking left, right, or independent. You're seeing a rise. You know, people are noticing things are getting better. And for those of you that are out there that don't think it's getting better, have you paid less for a tank of fuel recently?
If you say no, you're lying.
You're likely, unless you live in a state that decided, oh, you know what, they're already accustomed to paying this much, so we're just going to jack the taxes up on the state side. Okay. You know, I mean, if there's any organization on planet Earth that's learned how to lie with statistics, the best, it's the United States of America. So it doesn't matter what the situation is. If you're on the left or the right, you're going to create a narrative that's going to tell the story to elicit the emotional response that you want, not the reality. And we get so fucking conditioned to this nonsense. That's why when you're watching the news, it's how we feel about the news rather than the news. I don't remember Walter Cronkite ever telling you how he felt about something.
That's right.
You know, or the late and great Paul Harvey. He just laid it out there, and you either took it as, you know, comedic shtick, or you looked at it and said, well, there's the root of the problem. You know, and it would create a situation where you'd get involved, you'd do something.
Where do you think that shift happened? Where do you think that shift happened where the media went from, okay, so last night in St. Paul, 2 men were murdered, University Avenue and Snelling. Okay, facts.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
When did it go to last night, 2 men were gunned down, 2 black men were gunned down by a Mexican guy and a white guy, and it's a suspected hate crime, and they were all racist. Like, nobody, that's conjecture. And it's, why don't we just report the facts?
Because they can't. The news is no longer in that business. And
when
I think
if you look
that
at shift happen,
ownership, when we truly had, you know, independent medias that were owned by a multitude of companies, you had a multitude of objective perspectives. We don't have that anymore. What, everybody's owned by 6 companies? And guess what? I don't care if you're wearing, you know, let's just say the NFL, for instance. The NFL decided on the back end, they're going to buy every team. Would it still be the same team to you watching it as a fan? Absolutely it would. Right? The Minnesota Vikings are still doing their thing. But if they are pulling all the strings and they are doing things throughout that game to hedge or leverage an advantage one way or another to get the output that they want, that's what's happening. It's not that the game never changed. The news never changed. The news is still there. It's just they are told to do things in a certain way, or that would be my assumption, because there would be no other reason for it. You know?
Yeah. Well, there's certainly clear divisions between news affiliates and outlets.
Right. But you don't have to go that far when you go to Fox and CNN. I mean, those are the 2 that I pull up when we come down here and we start looking. And weirdly, you would think there would be this large divide between the story that they're telling.
Not anymore.
It's pretty it's pretty similar. You know, it might not be the same song, but it rhymes. But weirdly, it's never the actual story.
Of course.
Right. And it's like, well, how did this happen? I mean, this used to be my grandfather's favorite news publication. Because it was news. And now, I mean, even in our short period of time being functioning adults engaged with politics and paying attention because it matters, we've seen this thing shift. I mean, this went from like George Bush ain't number 1 good to holy shit, I can't believe these are our choices.
Right. Well, and I think that some people will also say that for years and years, and media always has been biased one way or another. I think there's going to be those folks. But I think the main idea, and most news outlets used to just state the facts and move on to the next thing. Like, remember when the news was 25 minutes? They did headlines, they did local stuff, they did national stuff, they did sports, weather, done. Now All in the Family's on. Let's watch Archie Bunker terrorize somebody.
Hey, that was awesome.
One of my favorite shows ever.
But I mean, now look, you had the 24-hour news cycle in our lifetime. When CNN first launched, what was his name? Ted Turner.
Oh yeah, Ted Turner. Yeah,
and he started the cycle. So now you had to pack 24 hours worth of some type of news or entertainment to get the viewers. And then it devolved to a point where, well, in order to compete with those, the local affiliates did more and more morning news. So they had morning news, noon news, afternoon, evening news, whereas you had the evening news in between those two pieces.
Yeah.
And then you have the news, the early morning news, the morning news, and then the late morning news with some hunyuck. I don't even know what to call these people, but right, the guy that is probably still on the early morning show now, he's got another show that he's trying to draw people in because they want to keep him down. So now you start looking at programming even on these local affiliates, and they've got like 3 to 5 hours of freaking news. There's not that, I hate to break it to you, even though this world is now connected with the old interwebs, there ain't that much going on. And the real shit that's happening, we don't even get to hear about.
Right. Well, I was just going to say, the stuff that really impacts our communities doesn't get talked about.
No.
It's just whatever's going to bring in the viewers. And so, of course, it all became more about money. It's just weird that everything that becomes fucked up or corrupt is always centered around wealth.
Right. It's
money.
It's people and their desire to want to follow man's law. And they want, and don't get me wrong, following man's law is fine because there are certain rules that we need to have a society in which we all want to live in. But they want to keep up with the Joneses. They want all the material goods and the things, and they want all this power, and they want these jobs, and they want to have this status, and then they want to be able to live a particular lifestyle, which, hey man, God love you. You got the chance, right? Go at it, do it. You're doing it with morality, even better. But at the end of the day, all this bullshit aside, every time that there's a transfer of wealth, it's not from a rich person to another rich person. It's from the poor to the wealthy. The transfer is not happening amongst themselves. And so at a certain point, everybody's just got to start paying attention. Like, well, why we as lemmings have to sit here and continually pay up? Maybe I don't need that 71st Dixon this year, which that's a lie. I definitely need it.
Blasphemy. That's blasphemy.
But those are the things. Like we can do small things to vote our conscience in a daily activity here, there, and everywhere, and start paying attention to what really matters. And it isn't half of this bullshit. And as soon as we shut them down, they have to change to come to you. If you're the groveling dog in the backyard, always begging to come in, you're always going to be irritated. You're always going to be, on edge. You're always going to be at the whim of that door opening. Get comfortable in the backyard. They're going to be coming to you, screaming for you. Come in, Richie. No, not having it. I like it back here.
Misery loves company.
Yeah, I just got really comfortable pissing on myself. It was a sweet place.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you say that because I was thinking earlier about how we've gotten to this point. And how we've gotten to the point where there's so many people that are just comfortable being stagnant where they're at. Right. So as all this stuff is happening in the president's first 100 days, it's astounding to see the amount of people in many different circles. Like, I don't know that this really knows any social economic thing because it seems like it's in all circles. The amount of people that have just become comfortable being provided whatever the government was providing them. And it's probably different for everybody. And now that these things are potentially going to go away, or they're going to become less, or it's going to be minimized a little bit because we can't afford to just give everything to everybody all the time. The amount of people that are like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. You made all this stuff unaffordable. You're taking away my programs. Well, how about maybe you gotta get your ass up and get a second job if you can't afford something, or you go without it until you can afford it. Like, whatever happened to the idea that we're gonna work hard for the things that we want, instead of just waiting for the government to rearrange itself to fit whatever it is I want into what I can afford.
Right.
Instead of me fixing me and putting me into the bracket of whatever it is I want that I can't afford, but I want to.
Yep.
And because I feel like when people like my dad and my mother were still working and I was young and they were young in their careers, I remember my mom having 2 or 3 jobs because she liked stuff, I liked stuff, and we had to eat. And I was a fat kid, right? So I was eating everything in the fucking house all the time, including the drywall probably. And so she had to do what she had to do to maintain the life that she wanted to provide us as kids and provide for herself. The government didn't go, well, hold on. You've created this lifestyle for your family. Let's adjust everything to make it fit into your budget better.
Yeah, let's throw you
and so
30%.
Yeah, and I feel like people are just waiting for the government to, okay, well, we're going to do whatever we need to do to fit this. So you don't have to do anything. Don't change anything. Don't worry, we got it. And now we find ourselves in this situation where we're getting back to old school. And what people fail to realize, I think, is you're going to have to go back to this mentality. If I can't afford it, I can't have it. If I want it, I got to work harder for it. I got to provide something. I got to do something. I got to contribute to society to have the life that I want to lead. But now we're getting back to this place where there's opportunity for everybody to do that. All you have to do is be willing to contribute. So It doesn't matter your skin color. It doesn't matter what you got hanging from your pelvis or not. It doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter where you live. The opportunities are there. And if everything is based on merit and hard work, that doesn't see any color.
No, you're going to be just fine.
Or any gender or any sexual orientation. Everybody will be just fine and probably get along.
Well, yeah, because when everybody's working towards things, we don't have all this time to sit there and quell over nonsense.
Right.
You know, I mean, shit, people are up in arms again. We'll get back to the 100 days that they have to pay back their student loans.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been spending a certain way and I don't know, I'm going to have to change. Yeah. Sorry, buckaroo. Time to cut out the lattes. Go to Super America.
Did somebody tell them when they took out these loans, hey, don't worry, you're not going to have to pay them back?
Yeah, and enjoy that sweet degree that pays you $33,000 every fucking 5 years. You know, just shut up. I don't care, right? Like, I have had very difficult times in my career, in my life, where I couldn't have the same lifestyle I had before, and you grin and bear it. You know, but hey, sorry. Tell sorry, you married wrong. We're not doing that. We can't do that. We can't sit there and cut that check and be comfortable next month. You have to pay attention to what we have, not what we had or anything else. And seeing these people on iFunny, it gives me I have a great deal of sadness for the situation that they're going to find themselves in as they grow up, because so many of these younger adults are stunted as shit. They're privileged. Here, we're going to coin a phrase right here, right now. Privileged poor kids.
Well, hey.
The privileged poor. Like, you can't. I'm sorry, man. If you chose a career and a path that's not going to afford you the lifestyle that you want, guess what? Go fix it or downgrade that lifestyle. Sorry, you can't. You go buy a pickup. They're $130,000, top of line. You don't get that anymore. Sorry. You have to pay your student loans back. So you're going to have to wait 5 years. But I would challenge them this. What'd you do in the last 5 years with all that extra cash?
Well, they bought $150,000.
Like, and they're not paid off. Yeah, there's something that got spent somewhere. So it's time to go tighten up the purse strings and start pay back those loans like every one of us do.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you this. I didn't pay back my student loans by writing checks, but I had to, because I wasn't able to. What I had to do was go out and find a job that had a student loan repayment program.
Yeah, but that was part of that was built into your compensation package. That's the same as cutting a check.
Right. Well, I'm saying I still had to work for it, but I'm saying there were other options to do that and it was a benefit to the job that I had. Okay, so there are ways to do it without having to write the check yourself.
Right.
And furthermore, isn't isn't that part of growing up, like you age, you go through life experience, you struggle a little bit because you're stupid when you're
Right.
young, and so you're going to be poor. You're going to spend more on DoorDash than you are your rent. I'll get paid next week, so I'll DoorDash this week, and I'll make up the rest of the rent
Yeah.
money on my next paycheck. We've all done that shit. So having to work for a better life, doesn't that what creates better rounded individuals for our communities, for people to grow? Hey, I did all this stupid shit. Now I'm 35 and I get it.
Yeah.
And so like those are the, isn't that, I thought that should be or was the natural progression
Well, it's
of
part
our,
of the growth curve,
Yeah.
to be a functioning adult.
But now we're in this place, like you were saying, they're just poor privileged people. Everything's been provided, and now we're getting to this place, hopefully, that you're gonna have to work for your stuff. And so these poor privileged folks, they're gonna be fucked.
Would they be the same person that, takes out a loan and they end up in one of the first time home buyer programs? Maybe they're Fannie or Freddie Mac. Well, because the government backs your loan by the same train of thought, well, should you just quit paying that mortgage payment? Well, no, there was a tertiary in between that actually facilitated that money coming your way. People think like student loans are just these checks that come straight out of Washington, D.C. No, they don't. They're created by other people who got into that place, that market, that understood the money that can be made. And so they put their money in there to be that function, and the government allows them to do so. And then they're backed by the government. These weren't checks being written by Washington, D.C. I mean, these people lack any understanding in the real world. So fuck them. 180 days. It's a good start. How about I'll just say that? I think he needs to dig in and do more. I hope he just keeps going. Like, shit, we're no longer friends with Zelensky.
Weird.
You know what? I'm sorry. For people out there that don't know, this guy has shut down elections in his own country because of a war that, again, we see people partying in the streets.
Yeah.
And hanging out. That's not a war.
People are still traveling to Kyiv.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
Our politicians show up there for photo ops, so they have over the past 4 years. With the exception of a couple during the actual invasion, I never saw any bullshit like that. And I promise you, where I did see one person who will always go unnamed, this motherfucker was not known to the people he was hanging out. CNN wasn't there to get a picture, to do all the bullshit and all that stuff. This guy was there to go see a thing and get the fuck out. I mean, he was not going to spend any more time in that dust than he needed to do whatever he was there for. Mm. So all of this shit aside, so we've lost Zelensky. They were a huge trading partner of ours.
They were?
Well, I mean, they must have been, the way people are up in arms. I mean, we've got that neighbor down the street that flies the Ukrainian flag with the American flag upside down. This human being is too stupid to spend 5 seconds worrying or thinking about when he believes that our country is on such a poor trajectory because we no longer will get Ukrainian-made bread. Exactly, because we don't get anything from the Ukraine. What did we ever get?
I think isn't their main export like barley or wheat or something like that?
Yeah, they were the bread basket of Europe, though. That wasn't coming our way.
Oh, well then.
Shit, I haven't heard. You know what? Maybe breaking news. They haven't had bread in Europe for 4 years, and that's why Putin's the bad guy. Bullshit. Like, they quit making pasta because they don't have that Ukrainian grain anymore. It's bullshit.
Well, there was all that talk about raw minerals.
But that's
not even mined yet.
But that's a big deal Trump daddy's working on.
Yeah.
And it's all, I mean, yeah, that's there, but it's not like we've been using it. There was clearly a reason that politicians got really excited and or worried about the Ukraine. And I would challenge you to fall down one of those conspiracy portals, because they're no longer wormholes, because they take about 6 seconds to be proven correct. Yeah. Go figure out what was going on in the Ukraine to understand why we had a vested interest in the world not knowing.
I think it's mostly weapons,
whatever type of bio BS they're fired up on, and anything else that's happening immorally. Because anytime the United States gets involved in any of these things, they tend to have an immoral beginning.
Isn't that? Yeah. All of them.
Every one of them.
Every one.
It takes 50 to 70 years to see the entire truth, but it will eventually rear its head. And the hope always, I think, for most governments are that most of the people that were involved in them will either be so old that they don't care anymore, or they'll be so young that they don't even remember the secondhand stories that were told.
Right.
So
there you go.
100 days for 100 years.
Yeah, man. I think it's a good phrase. Maybe we better coin that 100 days for the next 100 years, or maybe it's already out there.
I've never heard it before. And that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, because maybe it came to me
not scouring
while I was swiping the funny on the turlet, you know?
I don't know, man. And I think that there's a lot of other issues that are secondary, you know, like the abortion thing and like immigration. Why is stopping illegal immigration such a hang up for people? Why are things like abortion such a huge hang up for people when there's a lot of more, in my opinion, only more important issues?
Well, I'd say abortion's a pretty big issue, though.
But it's not as big as our borders. It's not as big as our economy. It's not as big as our defense. I agree it's important, 1,000%. But I also think that there's a few issues that probably should have been tackled first in the first 100 days or the first year or whatever.
Right.
Before we get to those, because
they're not doing anything about those. Like all these issues that everybody claimed to be the most important or imperative, they're not even being touched because we didn't know how rotten the trash can was actually.
Yeah. And what's the truth about these things?
When I think in postmark this, the first State of the Union, that will be our first glimpse at how dirty our laundry truly is.
You think?
Because I think what we're seeing, even though everybody will say these people aren't transparent, we are seeing more rooting around in the backyard than we've ever been privy to. And we know that they always do it, they just never let us know. And we're hearing about it now. These things will come out, and I don't give two shits. Epstein list, all this other bullshit. I still want to know about Diddy.
Yeah.
Because I think you learn about one, you can extrapolate and you know it all.
Yeah, everyone wants to know about Diddy.
Right, just give me that one. You know what? For the next 100 days, Trump, if you get a chance, throw a little light on the Diddy sitch. You know, to throw a couple of videos out there. All you got to do, leak one to the iFunny, and that'll get out to the tens of people that are on there.
But I think that the avalanche that would cause is exactly what a lot of people in this country want to know, because once the truth is out about Diddy, then everyone's going to start, in my opinion, people are going to start coming forward about Epstein, of course, because in my mind, they got to be intertwined somehow.
Absolutely.
And there's also the theory that both of them were government plants to get all these other folks get dirt. And that's why, well, maybe we haven't heard anything about Epstein because he was a CIA plant and blah, blah, blah. Who knows what the truth is? It's all out there. And to be honest, there's probably 5 or 6 different idea tracks that make sense. So how do you pick one?
Well, because that's the thing. Like, it's so crazy. Like the reality of what we saw was so fucked.
Yeah.
That your chain of fuckation could be anything. And you're like, yeah, it works.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't know. It's crazy. But
like when I was telling you about this thing I read about Hillary's lesbian lovers.
That's crazy.
In the Muslim nations, all her whole career. I was like, well, wait a minute. That's no way. Because the guy who was narrating this was like, well, covering up for Bill was pretty tough, but covering for Hillary's transgressions throughout her career has been extra tough. And so then you start thinking about all these people that have mysteriously committed suicide or drowned while snorkeling in a wading pool or fallen off bridges in front of semis just randomly.
Or shot themselves 4 times in the back.
Yeah, right.
Stabbed themselves to death.
So all that starts to make a little more sense.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that it's true, but if it comes out as true, I think a lot more people are going to be like, "Oh yeah, of course, makes sense."
But see, I think that's why these things need to be done whatever way that they're trying to do them. Because could you imagine the chaos that could truly, if even 100th of the things that we've heard about are real, what does that open up in
Oh,
everybody's minds? I mean, now, this is truly the snowball going down the cliff. Like that's going to be a monster by the time it hits them.
I haven't thought of that angle. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe that's part of why a lot of this stuff never comes out, because of the Pandora's box it might open up. And then do the masses become uncontrollable?
Well, absolutely. Because what's the hardest thing to do on planet Earth?
Get my wife to agree with me.
That's okay. From
I'm
a
kidding,
personal
babe.
standpoint,
I'm kidding.
you're likely right, but it's to convince somebody that they've been lied to.
Oh, yes.
Right? Because once you've bought in and once you owned it and once you set your line, boy, to sit there and you may be convinced of it, but you will never forgive the person that told you.
Yeah, and you may never admit it.
And you might not, and everything is going to change. And that's why I think that some of these things are just so far out that if you were to know the truth, the chaos that would ensue would pale in comparison to people pontificating on the interweb about what could possibly be. Because if you knew, now it's over.
Yeah. Well, I never thought of the mass hysteria it might cause. I think that people would get wrapped around the axle about, well, they're hiding it. I just want to know. This is bullshit. It's our tax dollars, or this is our privacy, or this or that, or whatever the issue is. But I don't know if everyone ever stops to think about if they do let all this out. And now there's all these super pissed, whatever it is, Diddy, Epstein, Hillary Clinton, the IRS, the DEA, the CIA, whatever it is. Well, do those groups of people then become uncontrollable? And is that what they're scared of?
Or can it galvanize the people to come together?
Which also makes them uncontrollable. Shit.
I don't know. Obviously I don't think that's
interesting angle.
It's not a new thought, but I think, why are we constantly divided? Why are we constantly we don't have all these divisions that they claim that we do.
Not in real everyday life.
Not in real everyday life.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. It's just, there are certain people that are going to be a certain way, but that's because of an experience they had, and be damned, it's not going to change. Sorry about your luck. Right. But there's not this institutional bias bullshit. There's not all these things. It's never the story that they're telling. I'm going to tell you that the cops pull over more of this racial profile than the other. But then I won't tell you how many times this racial profile gets in trouble and has interactions with said law enforcement on a true percentage. So I'm going to give you the percentage that I want to, so you can see what I want you to see. But I'm not going to tell you that actually, if you were able to look at the actual data, you're only getting 10% of those people in cuffs versus the other group of people who are they're not being chased down by law enforcement like everybody else, but you're getting a 50% hit rate on them. So by pure reality, it's a 5 delta the other way. And so you just have to be stupid to listen to everything that's going on and just take it at face value.
It's a lot to wrap your mind around.
It is, but then you just take that and then you look at Trump. Right? For everybody throwing as many daggers and shots and left hooks and right hooks and fucking taco benders. Dude, that dude's getting pounded every day. He's still standing there. The first time somebody took a shot at Biden, they were no longer allowed in the press room. They couldn't do this, and they were all hidden off. The guy's up front taking it.
And he's inviting like small podcasters who have a large following, but they're not mainstream media.
Yeah.
Small news agents. They're inviting them into the press room. Come ask questions.
Let's ask real questions. It's not the hit piece bullshit. Oh, you want to put out news, like real news? Come on in.
Well, I guess I will say this. I think that's one thing he's been super excellent at in his first 100 days is setting aside time. He does it on the Air Force One. He does it in the Oval Office. He does it when he's walking from the shitter back to the Oval Office. He'll stand in front of the cameras for 20 minutes and answer questions. I think in the first 100 days, he's got quadruple the time in front of cameras getting hammered by the press, whether it's positive or negative, than Joe Biden did in his whole term.
I agree. Well, and he hasn't been escorted by one Easter bunny in costume off the White House lawn. So he's up in the game there.
Yeah, man.
I don't know. I'm very excited to see where this thing goes. I have no clue what's next.
Do you think that it's possible, with the amount of time that he spends in front of the camera answering questions, do you think it's possible that he's that good of a shitbag and that good of a liar to make up all these lies on the spot? Because to me, that gives him a little bit of, not a little bit, a lot more merit than I gave President Biden.
Yep.
You'll stand in front of these people. You don't know what they're going to ask you. And you have answers all the time. And he's not shy about saying, I'm not going to talk to you about that. It's not time, or it's classified or whatever.
Yeah.
Or I'm not comfortable. There's not enough details yet.
Yeah, he doesn't give the scripted, politically correct answers that certain people are accustomed to. And that's the whole thing. Like how fucked is this world when you are excited about getting a non-answer answer? Like, cool, they really told me nothing. Well, I feel so good about it.
Yeah.
Like, what? I asked him about oil prices, and then he went on to tell me about how the kids in Haiti are no longer getting sunburn because of some sunscreen. Shut the fuck up.
And then people just take that answer.
And they do.
Okay,
They're
thanks a lot.
Did you hear about that sunscreen down in Haiti?
Yeah.
That was a pretty big deal.
Yeah, man.
Never mind. I just had to sell all my gold reserves to fill up my gas tank.
Yeah, and a kidney.
Well, fortunately for us, being shitbag veterans, nobody wants our organs nor our blood. So
yeah,
we're in pretty good shape.
Are you an organ donor?
No,
I don't think they take our organs anyway.
No, dude. I think, well, because of the anthrax volleys, even though they said after 10 years you can donate again, dude, I come in and they're like,
yeah, no thanks.
Like, no. The condition you would have to be in to get a straight shot of fucking Jason positive, boy, you are fucked. Because whatever I've got kicking,
fallen off.
Yeah, dude. Instantly, you get that first transfusion. You start shitting your pants and get headaches. You can't get out of bed. You lose your job right away. You hire dumb people. Like, it's a plethora of stupidity that's coming alongside it.
Yeah, man. I've gotten chastised before for not being an organ donor. How insensitive of you.
But why is that? I would like to hear your reasoning behind it, because I think we're similar, but I chose not to say it.
Why am I not donating my organs? I don't know. There's something about it that kind of weirds me out. Although I would say if I was somebody in need of an organ, I would accept it, of course. But I also am in the same boat with you. I think that we're tainted goods.
Yeah.
You know?
We're trashed parts.
And also, I'm not 1,000% sure that if I donate my organs, they're going to a good cause.
Yeah. Do you think that they don't give you the level of care to bring you back? I've heard people give me that argument that I'm not an organ donor because if I go into a hospital and they know that I'm an organ donor, they're not going to work as hard
to be able to harvest your organs.
Me, because the harvest is quite lucrative for those hospitals.
Okay, well, I had never thought of that, because I guess I didn't realize that, like, hospitals, if I donate my liver, someone's going to sell it.
Oh, dude, somebody's making some money.
I thought they just go into a pool of organs.
I don't
like
it's
like the penny dish at the gas station. It's the everybody tray.
So do you think that the Red Cross is just taking and storing that blood and just handing it out?
Well, at the risk of sounding really fucking ignorant, yeah, I did.
Look into it once.
I figured it's the same thing with organs, right? Like everyone may need it. So here's a pot.
You know, if that were the case, I think you'd probably have less hesitation in organ donation.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when people know the entirety of what's going on, and I know very little.
Okay, well, what do you know? Don't just send us off and blindly.
Well, I don't know anything. That's where I started going down, and I only have so much time before my legs go numb on the toilet.
On the shitter, yeah.
To get deep, but I got deep enough where I was like, well, there's that. I mean, but you watch these TV shows, you know, and it looks like this benevolent act, but I don't think there's a lot of benevolent acts that truly occur in that situation. I think somebody's getting paid. I don't know who. I don't know why, but I know with the small pieces of information I have about like that organization that takes blood, that it's not just going into bags and being frozen for people. It's being split out, sold. Things are happening.
Interesting. I'd never thought of that because with blood, for example, if they're selling it,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like I got to die for you to get my blood like you would
Nope.
my liver or something.
No.
Or my eyes. So I guess I figured if they're selling blood, then why are we not paid to donate it? Because you're paid to donate plasma, bone marrow, sperm, who knows what else, what other liquids are in your body that can be extracted for donation, platelets, shit like that. If it's all being sold, then why aren't we compensated when we donate? Because they put out this message, well, save your neighbor. You never know when your neighbor may need blood, or your kids or your parents.
Yep.
So make sure you donate to the stockpile.
Yeah, well, it's not World War I out there.
Right.
Right.
But they
it's
do
a huge
say,
business.
wow.
And I don't know what they use it for, what they sell it into, and all that other nonsense. But I can assure you the collection of blood, it far exceeds what's being utilized at the hospitals. And God love the fact that organization does exist, because without it, you wouldn't have any of this other stuff, or the local hospitals that run their blood drives to keep their blood bank full and all those things.
But it all goes to the Red Cross, right?
I don't know.
I think they're the big blood bank.
Well, they're the big muckety muck. They certainly have the biggest dick in the room, and they're the ones that with the mobile drives and all those other pieces. But I do think there is, I think there are hospitals that have local blood drives, and they might go through the Red Cross because they come to actually do the cleaning and whatever with the blood and all that other stuff to put it in that bank. But on a whole, man, it's not like you show up in a parking lot where they're doing a blood drive. Well, they're not just, it's not going to the end of the parking lot and somebody shows up to pick it up. They're doing something with it. It's going somewhere.
Oh, well, all right. Well, I guess that's one we look into. If you're watching this and you know anything about this, please comment below, because now I'm interested. And excuse my massive ignorance, because I never thought that was a thing.
It's crazy.
Paint me stupid. See, even here on this is why we have a great platform, because we're even humble enough to admit when we're dumb.
I thought that was a precursor to talking. Like, I'm stupid as shit. And it's not just because the older you get, the more you realize how dumb you are. Like, I started out with a very low totem, and it hasn't gotten any higher. Like, the only way it's going to get better is if the earth around me erodes and I appear taller.
Well, okay. Well, see, now we're both in the same boat. So, Jason, 100 days, closing comments. Do you have any closing thoughts?
I don't know. I think for anybody that's on the fence, remember the hardest percentage to move is 1% over 50. So if you can get yourself to 50%, maybe what's going on can get you to 51 favor.
There you go. Write that down. I think that in the first 100 days of the presidency of the new administration, I think it's been interesting. It's been fun to watch. And I kind of like watching all these perceived shitbags and these people that are scared. I like watching them squirm a little bit. So I'm not upset about that. And I look forward to what's coming next. We got a long time. I think we're about halfway through the first quarter right now, and we ain't even halftime yet. So stay tuned, stick in there, because I think that we're going to see a lot more fun happen. And hopefully heads that need to roll. Hopefully that happens. That's just my 2 cents. Thank you for joining us, guys. And we'll be back at the next time. Jason, have a great rest of your day. All right. See you guys. Bye.